What if the tribulation hasn't just been predicted? What if it has already begun? Wars are increasing. Moral boundaries are collapsing. Global systems are shifting faster than ever before. Jesus warned about a period unlike anything in human history. The Bible calls it the Great Tribulation. But here's the unsettling question. Are we already in it? Today, we examine 3 biblical signs, not speculation, not headlines, but Scripture. Stay with me, because the answer is more complex than fear-based theories suggest. Before looking for signs, it helps to understand what the tribulation actually is. The tribulation is described in the book of Daniel, expanded in Matthew chapter 24, and detailed extensively in Revelation chapters 6 through 18. Jesus described it as a time of great distress, unequaled from the beginning of the world until now. This is not ordinary hardship. It is a period of intensified global judgment. Scripture describes several characteristics during this time. Political deception becomes widespread. Economic control becomes centralized. Persecution increases dramatically. And catastrophic events impact the earth on a massive scale. Another important detail is that the tribulation unfolds in a structured sequence. Revelation describes stages often referred to as seals, trumpets, and bowls. Because of this structure, if the tribulation had already begun, these stages should be identifiable. So let's examine 3 commonly suggested signs. First, global instability. In Matthew 24, Jesus said, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. Nation will rise against nation." When looking at the modern world, it is easy to see conflict. Wars exist in multiple regions. International tensions rise and fall. Political instability appears across continents. But an important detail in that same passage is often overlooked. Right after describing wars, Jesus adds a clarification, but the end is not yet. Conflict alone does not equal the tribulation. Human history has always experienced wars. The Roman Empire experienced wars. The medieval world experienced wars. The 20th century saw 2 devastating world wars. So global instability is better understood as a precursor. Jesus compared these early signs to birth pains. Birth pains signal that something is approaching, but they are not the final moment. They increase in frequency and intensity over time. This suggests escalation rather than immediate conclusion. So while global instability is consistent with end times prophecy, it does not prove the tribulation has already begun. It indicates preparation. The second suggested sign is moral collapse. In 2 Timothy chapter 3, Paul describes the character of people in the last days. He writes that people will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, proud, disobedient, and unholy. Many observers believe modern culture reflects these descriptions. In many places, behaviors that previous generations discouraged are now celebrated. But moral decline itself is not unique to the modern era. Ancient Rome experienced profound moral chaos. The city of Corinth in the New Testament era struggled with deep spiritual compromise. So what distinguishes the end times environment? Scripture suggests it involves scale and normalization. When entire cultural systems begin redefining good and evil, the transformation becomes deeper. However, the Bible also describes something more specific during the tribulation. It describes a time when a global leader demands open worship and allegiance in opposition to Christ. While modern society shows moral confusion, we have not yet seen universal enforced allegiance to a single anti-Christian world ruler. That distinction matters. The third commonly discussed sign involves global control systems. Revelation chapter 13 describes a future system where buying and selling becomes restricted. Participation in the economy becomes tied to allegiance to a particular authority. For most of human history, this kind of system would have been impossible to enforce globally. But technology has changed what is possible. Digital currency systems now exist. Biometric identification technologies are expanding. Global surveillance infrastructure has grown dramatically. For the first time in history, The technical capacity for worldwide economic monitoring exists. However, capability is not the same thing as fulfillment. Technology itself is neutral. It can be used for efficiency, security, or control. What Revelation describes involves not just technology, but deliberate centralized authority enforcing worship. At the moment, the infrastructure may exist, but the specific prophetic figure described in Scripture has not yet risen to global worship authority. So the question remains, has the tribulation already started? Based strictly on the biblical descriptions, the world appears to be experiencing conditions similar to what Jesus called the beginning of birth pains. But the clear markers described in Revelation, the sealed judgments, the trumpet catastrophes, and explicit worldwide worship enforcement, have not yet fully appeared. That suggests something important. Time for preparation still exists, and that realization should not create complacency. It should create urgency. Biblical prophecy was never meant to produce panic. Its purpose is to awaken readiness. The real danger is not misunderstanding the timeline. The real danger is spiritual indifference. Jesus repeatedly told his followers to stay awake. He did not instruct them to calculate dates or attempt to predict headlines. The instruction was simple: remain spiritually alert. If the tribulation begins tomorrow, faith matters. If it begins decades from now, faith still matters. The exact timing does not change the call to readiness. The deeper question is not only whether the tribulation has started. The deeper question is whether a person is spiritually anchored. If the tribulation has already begun, are we grounded? And if it has not yet begun, are we prepared? History is moving toward a destination. Scripture makes that clear. But speculation driven by fear can weaken faith. Understanding grounded in Scripture strengthens it. Stay watchful. Stay rooted. Stay faithful.